Welcome to 10 Minute Magic, a bi-weekly format covering news in the world of Magic the Gathering in 10 minutes or less. I am Joseph Dunlap.
And I am Ben Cotty. And before we get into the recent news and articles, we wanted both to welcome all the new listeners who have listened in on YouTube or downloaded our recent episodes. Please don't be strangers and connect with us on social media or the comments on YouTube or the text articles on Manaleak.
We especially want to welcome our new listeners on iTunes and Podomatic. In the past month, our weekly downloads have skyrocketed, and we're very grateful to have your support. Most of all, we're curious about where you heard about 10 Minute Magic or where you first discovered us. Drop us a line on social media. The best way is on Twitter, @Draw4Podcast, which is our other Magic the Gathering podcast, and was sort of the launching point for 10 Minute Magic.
Yes, follow us at Draw4Podcast and send us a tweet with how you first heard about 10 Minute Magic. We'd love to connect with you. We're always looking for feedback, good or bad, on what works, what doesn't, and what you want to hear us talk about. You can also tweet us throughout the week with topics you want us to cover in our next episode. But for now, I think it's time we move on to cover this week's news, because there is so much to talk about. This is what's been going on in Magic the Gathering this week. Box mapping, no longer a thing of the past. Magic was notorious at one point for its history of box mapping. Basically, the print runs and packaging were so fixed that after buying enough boxes and marking out what booster positions in a box your rares were from, you could begin to go into a store, open one pack, and then know which pack and boxes to buy to hit the most card value. This is obviously not desirable for wizards or consumers, as you end up with packs sitting on shelves assuming that all the high value has already been plundered, and an imbalance on the number of specific cards opened, also destroying the random chance of the next booster being the good one, the drug that we chase all the time in Magic. This practice has largely been accepted as impossible to replicate for so long, due to randomization in the printing and packaging, that the practice is mostly a whisper of legend for most players, especially those new to the game. But it's reared its head again this year. There was a Reddit poster earlier which had some evidence and validity to opening identical Eternal Masters booster boxes. This was brushed aside off at the time as a one-off, and Eternal Masters had a number of printing issues. Less easy to wash away is an apparent issue now with Eldritch Moon. A number of posters on Reddit, plus some notable finance writers on Twitter, have identified a correlation between the artwork on the booster wrappings and the chances of opening a specific mythic or flip card in a specific box. So in one box, all the mythics will be in the same art pack once you've opened the first one in, say, your Liliana packaging. That would mean you would then just crack all the other Liliana packs searching for the mythics and none of the other boosters. That could send shockwaves through the secondary market and severely undermine consumer confidence. However, from my view, this in itself isn't much of a problem, as full box mapping was. Although a right pain for the local store level, requiring some randomization and solutions on their part, you'll still end up opening loads of random rares, because not every pack with that art is going to have a mythic in it after all. It also seems to be specific to the first US print run. But this, along with the one-off anomalies such as the Eternal Masters example, does give some concern as to what is happening at the printers, and it's definitely worth some investigation from Wizards before a box mapping disaster does occur.
A common workaround for many stores is to now sell packs upside down, face down. While that is a good workaround, now when you buy a pack, you just turn it over and now you know what the rarity of the rare is. So still not perfect, but it is a solution.
And also slightly cloudy because all these posts first coming up and lots of people in Europe and other places trying to debunk them because their packs didn't show the same thing, which is why it now seems to have narrowed down to a North US problem.
Wizards of the Coast staff hashtag. This week saw an unexpected change on Magic the Gathering social media. Any person who is an official Wizards of the Coast employee, when producing any public content, blog, article, or tweet, will now insert the hashtag WOTC staff. The official explanation from Helene Bergeau is that this adds clarity and consistency to the online presence of Wizards of the Coast. Like most changes, this hasn't been received particularly well by the Magic community, with the main complaint being the hashtag uses up 14% of a tweet's character length. The other is that it is annoying and ugly in multiple back-to-back tweets without really having an outward use to it. Hashtag WOTC staff isn't really useful in the way of worldwide Twitter trends. The most interesting part of this discussion is what has driven the change, as many question the official reason given on the mothership. Popular theory is that it is a combination of two factors. First, the recent sponsorship and trade legislation/lawsuits in the U.S. linked to people randomly publicly backing a brand or product, when in fact they have been paid to do so or even having ownership in the brand. Secondly, the ongoing judge litigation against Wizards, where they want to highlight and distinguish actual employees from volunteers. On Tumblr, Matt Tabak, aka the Rules Manager, who is often very active online answering a lot of various rules-related questions, publicly showed his disapproval of the new hashtag by opting not to answer a recent rules question. In the post, which has since been deleted, Tabak responded with, "Sorry, I'm not using this blog for work stuff right now," showing his distaste for being forced to differentiate work-related activity on social media. After the post's removal, Tabak posted a follow-up that he would be taking a break from Tumblr to focus on work responsibilities. It does seem in this case that someone at Hasbro Legal is going out of their way to cross their T's and dot their I's, but it looks like WotC staff is here to stay.
Although it is making it slightly easier for us on 10 Minute Magic to compile any Magic interesting news coming from them, so there's upsides there. Hooray for the little guy! Pro Magic, especially the Pro Tours, have, since the Channel Fireball team dominance, become a who-you-know game. Large sponsored teams not only working together to master formats and create dominant decks ahead of the tournaments, but also scouting the tables to give their teammates a leg up of knowledge, knowing what their opponents are playing, even before a card is played during the actual event, and then telling them once they know who they're paired against. This topic was a large discussion amongst pros towards the end of 2015. The upcoming Pro Tour Eldritch Moon will see some steps, detailed in an article by Matt Sperling today on Channel Fireball, to try and address the scouting activities, which are seen as unfairly detrimental to the lone wolves, who not only cannot scout all the tables as well, but might have some rogue deck tech to protect. This is a complicated and uneven ground for Wizards to be addressing, as with coverage and the such giving much of the game away, plus you can't just stop people watching games of Magic and reporting what they see. These steps will be: pairings will be posted in the venue as usual, however they will not list the names of opponents. At the time that pairings are announced, players cannot use electronic devices until the end of their matches. Feature matches will not be announced as pairings, they will be announced simply as a list of players, and then the players will receive their pairing assignments from the judges in the feature match area. Pairings that are posted to the Wizards Coast website will not be posted until a few minutes after each round begins. The period of time from pairings being announced until matches begin will be strictly timed at 4 minutes. Most of these seem to be aimed at the window of opportunity when seeing who you're playing against to access some kind of Excel spreadsheet put together by your team to know before you sit down across from your opponent what they're playing, so you can influence mulliganing decisions of your opening hand and get a leg up when they're taking different lines of play during the game. The real big feel good here is the opening paragraph of Sperling's article, which is that there are open communications with pros, which are happening and being actioned on, and that can only be good news long term for the Pro Tour.
From the mouth of Morrow. You really should be following Mark Rosewater, or Morrow's Tumblr, the Blogatog, as it is often a source of breaking news for Magic-related issues, but we here at 10 Minute Magic are more than happy to fill you in. From his post this week, 3 newsworthy items have appeared. First, Create. As we've seen on the preview of the October F&M promo card, which is Rise from the Tides, we now see the new terminology Create, which basically means put on the battlefield. This is a keyword that we're going to begin to see in Kaladesh, as Marwa explained, so the promo will come right after that and give us an opportunity to see the new keyword in action on a pre-existing card, much in the same way that the expeditions in Oath of the Gatewatch, the first set where we got the new colorless symbol, showed off the new colorless symbol in action as Oracle text.
And Create can only be a good thing going back to Kaladesh with the number of Thopt tokens that we're all expecting to be running around.
So very flavorful as well. Second news item is Contraptions are not coming. Poor Steam Flogger boss. Morrow confirmed that Contraptions aren't in Kaladesh at the San Diego Comic-Con panel and reaffirmed it on his blogatog.
Oh, screamed out millions of speculators that bought all their Steam Flogger bosses.
The final news item is new format incoming, but probably not for a while. When asked about a new format that would be between Modern and Standard, Morrow said as more time elapses and Modern grows larger, that there is more room for a non-rotating format in between. This is also going to be a big topic of discussion on Draw 4 Podcast next week, so go check that out.
And the really interesting thing about Morrow's Tumblr is he's asked lots of different questions. He's very open and transparent in how he answers them, but you can't often take them at face value, because where he's saying that there, as it grows larger, there will be room, there's no timeline on that. He answers the obvious, but he leaves it so open-ended because he doesn't know what's going to happen in another 20 years of Magic's history. Recent Manaleak articles. The first article is by debutant Paul Palmer. He makes his debut with the first in a series of Commander, or EDH those clutching at your Legends Dragons, looking at the big question, who is your leader? what motivates the different selections and what matters, but starts right from the beginning to address what is a commander. Daniel James comments, awesome guide for players like me who have yet to get into EDH. Thanks for the help and can't wait for more guides. And Carl Scott follows that up with good read to help introduce people to the format.
The next article is A Beginner's Guide to Magic the Gathering Dual Commander, Two's Company, by Ben Cabrelli. As a follow-up to his Eldritch Moon Dual Commander set review, this article gives players new to the format an open window to peer in, even for the die-hard multiplayer general. Calcom McInnes says, enjoyed the article, Ben. Looking forward to reading more from you in the future and to seeing that 5-color control deck in action. Max Walker says, I live in France, and the format is really popular at my local shops. I agree about the deck building possibilities. You have the legacy card pool, but longer games, so you can really have fun with bigger, silly cards.
And finally, recently published and well worth a read and comment is Graham McIntyre's article detailing his reluctant steps back into Modern and winning a place on the English World Magic Cup team. Not just humble brag's tournament report story, but packed with 5 takeaways to help you in your next big event.
This will also be a topic of discussion on Draw 4 Podcast. We're going to be talking about those 5 takeaways from his experience. So that is the articles from Manaleak. If you have enjoyed 10-Minute Magic, our short bi-weekly news format, then you will probably enjoy some meatier Magic the Gathering topical content from Draw 4 Podcast, produced by myself and featuring a full cast of regulars from across the Magic spectrum.
And look out for me on Draw 4 soon discussing Shadows Innistrad Block and Eternal Master's impact on the Cube format. Thanks for listening. Leave us a comment on social media or find our text article form of this episode on manaleak.com/mtgUK and let us know how we're doing, what are your thoughts, and topics that we can discuss in future. You can find Joseph on Twitter
at Joseph_Dunlap
and myself at Carburita. Until next time, bye bye.